The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Susan Sweeney, one of the deans at eLearningU, and I'd like to welcome you to today's program, Take Flight with a Great Content Strategy. For any of you that are new on our call, we go for about 50 minutes of great content, and then we have about 10 minutes of Q&A, and we do our Q&A one of two ways. You can type the question in as we go along, and I will read those questions out to Anna in the Q&A time period. Alternatively, if you'd like to speak to Anna to get your question answered, just wait till we're in the Q&A time period and then hit that little hand symbol on your control panel that lights up on my screen and lets me know that you want me to unmute you. I'll give you a little heads up, call you by your first name. I will unmute you. You'll be able to speak to Anna to get your question answered. Everybody will be able to hear the question. Everybody will be able to hear the answer. And once your question's been answered to your satisfaction, I'll then mute you again and we'll go on to the next question. So our expert today, Anna Heckadon. Anna is a social media manager who focuses on strategy and growth. She's managed social media for multiple businesses, increasing their organic reach and engagement by creating specific strategies tailored to their brand type. Most of her social media experience comes from her work with tourism and travel companies, and she absolutely loves to travel. Anna's going to have a special offer for you at the end of the program, so make sure you stay till the very end, just before we go into the Q&A time period. And also, I've been having a great conversation with Anna about the work that she does. She's a social media manager, and she also coaches social media marketers. So if you're looking for some help in either of those areas, Anna's the person you need to hit up. So without further ado, Anna, we're looking forward to this program. Anna did a program a little while back for it. It was absolutely fantastic. And really looking forward to this program, Anna. Thanks so much.
Hey guys, so I'm Anna and I'm here today to talk to you about social media content strategies, why they are so important to have and how you can even create one so that you never run out of content again. So first, I'm going to introduce myself as well. So as Susan said, I'm a social media manager who specializes in strategy on organic growth. For the businesses that I've managed social media for, I have focused heavily on both creating specific strategies tailored to their type of business, as well as the engagement and organic reach of their accounts. Although my expertise has expanded lately, the foundation of my social media experience comes from working with tourism and travel related companies. And as Susan mentioned, I also do coaching now as well. Okay, so as a millennial, I have used social media for what feels like most of my life. I've been using Instagram and Facebook fairly consistently since I got them, around the beginning of this decade. So when I got tasked with managing social media at a job I had working at an information kiosk in a nearby municipality, I was pretty excited to say the least. This was my first experience with social media in a professional sense. Through it, I learned a whole lot about what to post, and how to craft a tailored content strategy for this tourism committee specifically. So I started the position not knowing what even to do for a content strategy, and I was pretty much posting at random. But, we all start somewhere, and I learned both through my supervisor and over time that a strategy was 100% needed. And so I crafted one. So at my next job, I had originally intended to work retail at this travel clothing store, but I also got tasked with managing their social media. It sure seemed like something was telling me to make this my career. But anyway, so on their social media, I promoted, the store in general, the clothing, the luggage, the bags, other miscellaneous travel products sold, and, just travel in and of itself. So through this, I learned a lot about how to actually craft strategies, both related to travel and to a clothing store. I took my experience from working with the tourism company, plus I was learning a whole bunch of things online. And I, kind of crafted a full-on strategy that both minimized my time actually creating content and made me actually always know what to post. A couple of months into that retail job was when I really decided to go all in with social media, and I got hired to manage social media remotely for a historical tourism company. When managing their accounts, I got the chance to figure out and really nail down a content strategy specific to them and their business type. Theirs was rather complex as it involved a multitude of different cities and topics, and thus no shortage of historical tidbits to discuss. But I figured it out, And I alternated based on what new tours they were launching, which different cities they wanted to promote, which specific tours they wanted to promote, and what different historical topics they wanted to address, on different holidays per se. There's a lot to think about when it comes to content strategies, especially when you have a surplus of content like this company did. But don't get overwhelmed because I will break it down for you in a bit. So, since that experience, I started my own business and it has continually been expanding since I officially launched just this past July. I started my business foundation on social media management and social media engagement. By engagement, I mean I help my clients grow their following organically, build connections, and gain new leads. Currently, I work with clients on LinkedIn and Instagram engagement. Instagram engagement is by far my most popular service because that platform is entirely dependent on the amount that you engage. But that's a topic for a different time. Recently, I have actually added more aspects to my business, such as social media and business coaching, because I discovered that I really love to teach. I'm currently helping, newer service-based business owners launch their businesses, land their first clients, and get their business systems all set up for success and scalability. But enough about me. Now let's actually get into the presentation. So in this presentation, I'll be speaking in loads of detail about social media content strategies. I'll first discuss what type of content does well on social media and what you can share in the travel and tourism sector. Then I'll address why you need a content strategy, how to actually go about creating one, and finally, how to analyze it so you can update your strategy for the future. So why this topic? I wanted to actually touch on why I chose to do a presentation on content strategy to begin with. So I found that so many people either don't realize that they need a content strategy for social media, or they just have no idea how to create one. So I thought it would be a useful talk. Many people go about social media much like they use it personally, posting at random, posting whatever they want, posting whenever, and posting without any intent behind it. Social media for marketing and business purposes is so much different from that. You have to really think through why you're posting what you're posting and create those plans in order to actually be able to analyze what worked and what didn't and move on to create a better future plan. If you're only posting at random and without intent, it's probably going to flop. Some posts might do well and could even go viral, but likely not a lot of them. And you won't even really know why they did well if there was no strategy or intent behind them. When you post to your personal accounts, you share things relevant to you, and you basically share what you want to share. When it's about business and marketing, it's all about what your audience wants to see from you, not about what you want to show them. Always think from your audience's perspective and even ask them what they want to see from you. But we'll get into that in a bit. So also, when you share on your personal accounts, you're not usually concerned about growing your following or building up your audience, but that is so much different when it comes to social media marketing. So I really decided to do a presentation on this topic in order for you to realize why it's important and actually help you start crafting something that might actually work to your benefit. And if it doesn't, you'll know how to analyze and easily figure out why it didn't. That's the point of a strategy. Without one, you're basically wasting your time, plain and simple. All right, so who's this presentation for? This presentation is for you if you haven't created a content strategy for your social media. Maybe you don't even know what a content strategy is or what counts as a content strategy. You feel like you're wasting your time on social media because no one is really seeing or even acknowledging your posts. You're getting no return and you feel like time is just going out the door. You see people doing well on social media, but you have no idea how they got there. How did they get all their followers? How did they not lose followers? You want to create a content strategy, but you don't know how or even where to start. What's a good one? How do you make it work to your benefit? You're only posting on occasion and with random but related pieces of content that are in no particular order. What's the right timing for your content? Have you thought about that? You are at a loss for what to post. Maybe you have too many ideas or just none at all, but when you sit yourself down to post, your mind just draws a blank and you stare at that cursor. You're at a standstill right now with your social media and you never, never, never want to run out of content ideas again. So after this talk, you will know what type of content performs well on social media. So there must be some sort of type that works well, shouldn't there be? How are all these people out there killing the game on social media and just shining and doing so well? They know what content works well, and I will share that with you. What type of content you can and should share in the travel and tourism sector. From my experience in this field and my personal experience traveling, I have learned a whole lot about, what actually works. Why you should have a content strategy. We'll talk a bit of statistics on that point. I want to make sure you really understand the benefit of it. How to actually create a content strategy in detail, in so much detail too. From, like where you actually create it to how you craft your content. So what's the best way to format a post? How do you entice people to read a whole post? What makes your audience stop scrolling? And how to update your content strategy for the future. You won't just learn how to make a strategy for right now. You'll continually learn how to, update it for the future so you never stop running out of that content, and you learn what does well and what doesn't, and how to keep updated on these changes. So let's get into it. But first, let's actually start with some terms you should know going into this presentation. So you probably know a lot of these terms, but we're just going to go over them all to begin with, just to make sure everyone is on the same page and has a solid understanding of them. So what is content? For the purposes of this presentation, I'm referring to content as what you share on social media. It can be a multitude of different forms like posts, Instagram or Facebook stories, live video, pre-recorded and edited video, photos, and text captions. And then there's strategy. So strategy is a plan of action to achieve a desired goal. In this presentation, I refer to these two terms together mostly because that's entirely what this presentation is about. So content strategy. People have defined content strategy in different ways, so I wanted to get really specific with it. In this presentation, I'm referring to content strategy more like your blueprint for your content based on your overarching brand goals, your more specific marketing goals, and what your audience wants to see from you. Highlight reel. So this has been talked about regarding social media for a bit of time, and basically what I mean by it is when you're only sharing the positive things on social media. For example, on your personal account, only sharing the good things that are happening in your life. So how your life is represented through your account is more about the highlights. Therefore, it's called the highlight reel. Memes. So I hope we all know what these are. But basically, the Oxford definition is a humorous image, video, piece of text, etc., that is copied, often with slight variations, and spread rapidly by internet users. And then we've got TikTok, this new video sharing social media platform where you can share up to 60-second videos. Twitter's trending hashtags. These are hashtags that people are using a lot of in a short span of time. Like, people are discussing these topics more than others. Twitter explains them as such. Twitter trends are automatically generated by an algorithm that attempts to identify topics that are being talked about more right now than they were previously. The trends list is designed to help people discover the most breaking news from across the world in real time. The trends list captures the hottest emerging topics, not just what's most popular. Instagram and Facebook stories. So these are the short up to 15-second pieces of content that you can share. They appear at the top of the page, like at the top of the Instagram feed and at the top of your Facebook news feed. You can quickly and easily add various types of content here. Live tweeting is when you tweet during an event, like as it occurs, to share with people who can't be there, what's happening as it's happening. Instagram account types. Okay, so there's personal accounts, business accounts, and creator accounts. Business and creator accounts both show different types of analytics, whereas personal does nothing of the sort. Business accounts are good for retailers, local businesses, brands, organizations, service providers, and whereas creator accounts are good for like public figures, influencers, content producers, and artists, and that's probably not really relevant for you. The only ways in which these two types are different is that creator accounts tend to see a bit more analytics based on like people following you versus unfollowing you. All right, now let's get into the bulk of the presentation. So, what type of content actually performs well on social media? So some of the following things I say might not seem like they're actually related to the travel and tourism sector, but I'll tell you how you can tie it all together in a bit. So right now on social media, emotional, vulnerable, and personal content are doing well, but not just like sharing your woes. It's about making it a learning experience and sharing a transformation. People are thoroughly enjoying real and honest content. It used to be strictly business on social media, but it got way too much like people were fake and, bot like. So only sharing the highlight reel, yeah, like only sharing the highlight reel, only sharing the good in your lives. So there's been a sort of pushback and, sharing the lows, but not just as the lows, but how you overcame them is the type of content that's actually doing super well. Like I said, this seems like it can't relate, but we'll get there. People love happy ending stories, stories that started off with a hard time. You can be vulnerable about that hard time too, but then got to a place of transformation. A lesson was learned, and you can use that lesson to empower and lead others through your social media. Again, not explicitly related, but bear with me. Another type of content that does well is funny content, sharing memes, sharing jokes, something that makes people laugh. Those types of content can go viral pretty fast. And that's entirely what TikTok is about. Also, just look up tourism memes on Google and you will find a wide selection of ideas, much like the image in the previous slide. If you're trying to draw young people to your area, I highly recommend traveling into the memosphere. I know that's not a word, but being with the times and up to date on what your audience is talking about or laughing about is key to take advantage of. On that note, if you're seeing a certain theme on a certain social media platform, pick up on it. Be relevant. Be what people want to see. Like on TikTok, being funny gets you far. But there are people on there, sharing business videos, and those just don't work. Those are 100% a waste of time. It's all about what does well on the platform you'll be posting on and what does, well more in general too. Like vulnerable content isn't necessarily TikTok relevant, but it is on Instagram. And the other side of that, if you see a theme on social media that's like a topic that's being discussed a lot, pick up on that too. It's key to be relevant with that, and Twitter's trending hashtags really give you an idea of what is going on and what you might want to talk about if you're on Twitter. Hop on the bandwagons that you see. Sometimes posting like that can be risky, but you can also go viral when you pick up on themes that are hot topics right then, especially with regards to Twitter, but still on other platforms. For example, like there was the 9-year challenge on Facebook. So where were you 9 years ago versus today challenge, where you share a picture of yourself from 9 years ago and one today. So, anyone can pick up on that theme and you don't have to be literal with it. I mean, you could, share a picture from your community 9 years ago compared to now, but you can also get funny with it and go the meme route. All right. So people also love to see behind the scenes type content so they can really get to know you and what you're doing. This kind of ties into the whole highlight reel thing because people really want to know what's going on behind the curtain of that highlight reel and really get to know what you're doing in a real and honest sense. It makes people trust you and your account a lot more. There's so many spam accounts out there, so the more real you can be, the better. People also love it when they can relate to you. If you share relatable stories, people will like and trust you a lot faster than when you're not relatable. This is kind of where memes come in, depending on the age of the audience you're trying to relate to. But this also can be other types of relatable content. People also love it when businesses and social media accounts in general have a face. It's just if it's just business, and there's no person behind it, people are like less likely to be interested. They love both seeing and relating to people. People are also more interested in the experience you give them in your community rather than the materials. They don't want a list of what they're going to do there or what they can do there. They want to know how they'll be transformed by visiting your community, your hotel, or what have you. They want to know how it'll make them feel. Also, always think quality over quantity when you're posting. People don't want to be overrun with posts that don't touch them in any way, posts that don't mean anything to them. They want posts that mean something to them, can touch their emotions, and you don't have to make too many, like quality over quantity in that sense. Also, reviews. Social selling is super key right now on social media. The more reviews, testimonials, that sort of thing you have and you share on social media, the more trustworthy you become. So what type of content can and should you share as a travel-related business? You should, of course, share upcoming events. things that are going on in your community or your hotel or such. People want to know what's coming up, or maybe you hold a big summer event. People would love to know that so they can plan their vacations to your area around that time. Events as they occur. For those that either cannot make it out or just to promote how fun your events are, it's so good to both share posts after an event has occurred, talking about it and reflecting on that event, but also to film Instagram or Facebook stories or Instagram or Facebook lives, or live tweeting an event as it occurs. For those that miss out on your event, they can then see how much fun it was, and if it's an annual event, they're hopefully going to try and make it out for the next one. Just seeing the fun people are having makes people feel the FOMO, which is fear of missing out. If you successfully promo an event in advance and market to that fear of missing out that people will have by, hyping it up and talking about how amazing it will be, then people will come because they don't want to feel that FOMO. But for those people that don't come or can't, they'll feel that FOMO even more when you live tweet it or share pieces of it happening live. Great for getting more people to come next year. If you're representing a community, you should highlight the businesses in your area. You can take advantage of the hashtag Small Business Saturday, but you also don't have to follow along with that. A lot of people on social media are sharing about small businesses on Saturday, so even if you don't go along with that hashtag, you could at least check out what other people are doing and get ideas from it. Community news is always a good thing to share, unless it could be too political or opinionated and you don't want to take a side. You don't have to. But by sharing news of things happening in your community, people realize that they can come to you for that and that you know a lot about what's going on in the community. Always a good thing when you're representing a community. So on that note, take what you post as a learning experience. So for the local tourism company that I was working with, the municipality had recently banned feeding the seals in the harbor. People were very upset about that because it had been allowed for quite some time and it was really the main activity on the docks. So I remember a couple of weeks later, without thinking hard enough, I shared a picture of the harbor seals and a couple of people got all up in arms in the comments, and there was a bit of damage control involved. Nothing we couldn't handle, but still, always think before you post. If you're trying to promote your area, it's always important to, share the things to do in it. So how else are people going to know what to do? You can promote things of what to do in different themes: shopping, art and culture, nature, and others as well, like historical content. If there's a good lot of history in your area, or really any amount of history, that's another theme that you can use to draw people to your area. There's lots of people out there that go visit places for their history, so always important to share that sort of thing to appeal to those types of people. User-generated content as well. This is great as it ups the likability of your place when people on social media see that social proof. But we'll talk about that more on the next slide. So seeing pictures that other people have taken who visited your area or are from that area, it gets others excited for the things they can do and see, and the pictures that they can take as well. Basically, if you aren't sharing any amount of content created by others, it can quite unfortunately be assumed that people hate the area that you're trying to promote. That's probably not true, but without that social proof, it feels that way. When there's that social proof, a viewer on social media can see that other people are sharing and talking about that place too. It makes you more likely to go visit as well. So that's kind of related to reviews. So that social proof and those positive stories that people share regarding visiting a place are great types of content to share if you're not already doing so. These are often hidden on TripAdvisor, Yelp, Google, or other places, but you can link these reviews and quote them on your social media to get those millennials that aren't necessarily checking out TripAdvisor or Yelp to see them on social media. So I kind of talked about this a bit in the past slides, but let's talk about how you relate, what type of content you share to what does well. So you want to really get human with your content, put a face and a voice behind your brand. Don't just hide behind pictures or videos of your community. People love it when there is a face, a person that represents you. Let me give you an example of this, not related to social media specifically, but like news reporters, the weatherman. Imagine if it was just a voice or text telling you what's going to happen with the weather in the week. It's really, firstly, not as entertaining, and secondly, it's kind of boring. Same goes for social media. Literally just pick someone to be the face, to go live on Instagram, to talk about things as they're happening, to talk about upcoming events, to talk about themselves. Yes, themselves and the community. They can talk about their place in the community, but people will want to know more about this face that represents their community. They don't want you to be a perfect person. They want you to mess up on camera. They want you to have human traits. Messing up on camera happens for everyone, and people want to see that real and true authenticity. Share stories, stories about the businesses, the history of the area, stories about people who've traveled and visited there, through those reviews, interviews of business owners too. People attach to stories. So the more real and true stories you can share are the better. Stories intrigue people. That's like why people watch Netflix or read books. They want to be entertained or intrigued or made curious by a story. So tell stories, and tell stories always. A phrase I hear a lot, and I'm not sure exactly where it came from, but it's facts tell, stories sell. Facts about your area tell people things, but the story really sells people on it. Sells people to want to come visit your area, your hotel, or what have you. One thing that the tourism committee in the municipality I worked in did was hold a writing contest for stories. We should have requested and had people sign off for us to use portions of their stories for social media postings, as that would have been a great way to share stories about the community in bite-sized chunks, but we just featured them on our website for a bit. This also helps share those stories, and there can be a reward involved too. That's what we did. Top 3 got shared on the website, top 1 got financial compensation for the wonderful story that they've written. So share emotions and touch feelings. Tug heartstrings with your content. Really deeply make people want to visit your area. Make them feel the feeling that your community gives off. It might sound kind of mystical, but this is really how people can relate, and something that easily gets them to visit your area. Like the facts tell, stories sell thing, people don't care about the specifics about where they're staying, what exactly they get out of it, like how many beds, what sizes, if they get a mini fridge or not in their room. I mean, of course they care about that, but they care about how it's going to make them feel. Is there a window view out to the ocean? How's that going to make them feel? Are they seeing the busy street from their window? How's that going to make them feel? Facts tell, stories sell. People care about the emotions and feelings their experience will evoke in them. Like experience over materials. Showcase how a trip to your area will craft a lasting memory in them. What unique experiences they'll have. How visiting will actually inspire a great social media post for them. They want it to be post-worthy for themselves too. And that's where user-generated content can come in as well. So they can share their stories, and you can ask to put it up on your tourism account, and others can see, and others can then buy and come experience too. There could also be loyalty or rewards points given to people, who share promotional type story content. If people who visit share stories, you can give them rewards, and people who they bring in can get rewards too. That's like boosting up how many people are advertising your area. And when they share those stories, like I've been saying, facts tell, stories sell, it's an even bigger push getting people to your area. The rewards thing can help with that, but it's not something you have to do at all. It was just an idea. Okay, so video marketing is super key right now. So you can share stories through video and that does wonders. You can give a firsthand look to the community, but in order to make it really resonate with people, it cannot just be an overview of the area. It's got to get really personal and share a story and evoke that emotion. Like a kind of unrelated example, but an example nonetheless. It's when I think it was Toyota or some other car company, they created such heartwarming video ads that either involved someone's whole life story or it involved dogs. Sharing stories like that is key. And earlier I talked about funny content. Funny content can take the shape of memes, travel and tourism memes and news related memes. So you can also go that route. But we want to remember that stories are key. As well as social media really opened up the game for customer service. Like people can post on Twitter complaining about their flight with Spirit Airlines, and Spirit can reply and do damage control. When businesses and brands get human and weird and funny with their content, it also does well. For example, Wendy's Twitter account, like the restaurant, Wendy's is pretty funny when it comes to making fun of other brands. Obviously, you don't need to do what they're doing, but it's really funny to go about it that way. Same with Denny's restaurant. So back when Apple announced that the iPhone 7 wouldn't have a headphone jack, Twitter obviously went crazy. And Denny's reply was this: true innovation would have been replacing the headphone jack with a flapjack, plus a GIF of a pancake flopping down on top of an iPhone. So here it's Denny's both being funny and responding to current trends, like I'd mentioned earlier. And so since mid 2013, Denny's has become a Twitter marketing genius. They always capture the latest online trending topics and make puns, use wordplay, and are just generally quite funny. This type of content is doing extremely well on Twitter right now, and I would recommend checking out Denny's and Wendy's for ideas. So we know what type of content does well and what we should be sharing. But why then do we need to have a content strategy? So there's a multitude of different reasons. So here's why. So content drives everything. 57% of marketers rated relevant content creation as among the most effective SEO tactic. Brands with a documented content strategy are more effective at content marketing than their competitors. Having a strategy produces higher quality content because it helps you set and reach goals and keep track of your progress. You don't want to waste time, money, energy, so having a strategy for your content is key. It helps you ensure that your marketing effort is goal driven. And through these goals, you can more easily and effectively measure what's working versus what's not working. You can identify new opportunities through your strategy, new avenues for new content ideas. Having a strategy will help you be organized in, both how you look for new content creation opportunities and just in general with what content you're creating and what you're putting out there. High quality content is more likely to be consumed, liked, and shared, and maybe even go viral. You want to create a strategy with your set business and marketing goals in mind so you can actually create that high quality content that your audience wants to see from you. If your content strategy is not aligned with both your brand's goals and the interests of your target audience, you won't reach anyone and your strategy will be a waste of time. A good content strategy creates connections between the brand and the consumers, especially when you touch on emotions in your content strategy. Facts tell, stories sell. Emotions are key to reaching your customers, and having that strategy will get you there easier. Without a content strategy, you won't know what type of content you have, what type of content you need, or even what type of content is the most effective for your purposes. When you have that strategy, it gets you to where you want to go quicker, with less stress and better results. It helps you really produce content that converts consistently. A good content strategy represents your marketing strategy. Without the right content, your marketing isn't going to be coherent and thus not relevant. It can even damage your brand. Having a content strategy helps you assess metrics and all the analytics more easily because you know what direction you're actually going in, like what goals you have both in the long term and the short term. And so thus having a content strategy can deliver amazing results. Okay, but how do we even create the strategy? First things first, pre-strategy creation. So you have to know your audience. You have to do a complete dissection on who your audience is. Think about who you're trying to reach, what type of people they are, what they like to do, what they do for work, what they do in their spare time. Like, think really deeply on who they are. You can even reach out to them or people in your community if you're comfortable doing that. You can send out surveys to people who have visited or to people in your community, asking them more about what they'd like to actually see from you, how they found out about you, how they enjoy your social media. You can also do this in person with your community at events on more of an unofficial basis. Just asking around what people think from you. Maybe asking them to like what they like from other social media accounts, what makes them want to follow someone of a related brand type on social media, What makes them want to follow a tourism account on social media? Is it because you're already planning to travel to that place? You dream of going to that place? You like their content? What about their content do you like? These are all really great types of questions to ask and to think deeply on. Market research like this can help you really nail down what to share. Because what you share on social media as a brand, as for marketing, as we talked about earlier, is not what you want to share, but what your audience wants to see from you. So what better way to figure that out than to ask your community, your audience, and your target audience directly? After you've done that, thinking of content and content ideas will be easier upon creating this strategy. So this will help you with batching your content and will make it easier. So keep an ongoing note in your phone or on your computer for post ideas, when your inspiration strikes. Write down questions you get asked by tourists, by community members. Write down community struggles or things they want to know more about. Frequently asked questions. Anything as it arises and you think might make great content. Keep that running note of it so you don't forget things. Because we all hate it when we know we have a great idea, but it slips our minds exactly when we need it, when we go to write it or post it. Okay, so then how do you go about actually creating that content strategy? First things first, sit down without distractions at a time that you are most creative. Figure out what time you're most creative at and sit down then. Basically, be productive when you're most creative. Decide how many days a week you'll post. This can vary per platform, but on standard, I recommend 4 times a week. Pick a content theme for each of your 4 days. You can do Travel Tip Tuesday, Small Business Saturday. These are hashtags that people use. You can follow along with that, like Throwback Thursday for historical posts, or you don't have to do that at all. But I will say that these hashtags make it easier to think up content ideas. So you can do upcoming event promotion on Fridays. It's entirely up to you. Just make sure you're posting all that you want to post. If you've got a wide variety of different content ideas, but you only want to post 4 days a week, you can alternate weeks so that one week you do, say, Travel Tip Tuesday, Throwback Thursday, event promo on Friday, and Small Business Saturday. And then the following week, you share a review, an event on or after it's occurred, community news, things to do in your area, and then you alternate back to what you did in the previous week, the Tip Tuesday, Throwback Thursday, that thing, and keep going through the different cycle of the 2 weeks. It's entirely up to you and your amount of content ideas, plus what your audience wants to see from you as discerned by your market research. So take your themes and pop them into a Google Doc, listing out each theme, then add content ideas underneath each theme. When you break it down into themes, it's much, much easier to think of ideas to go for each theme, rather than trying to rack your brain for any type of content. When you have a set theme, it's just so much easier to think it through. Then now you've got all these ideas for the month, or more if you thought of a lot, in a Google Doc under their respective themes. Now to actually flush out and write the content. Plus, you'll need to gather all other pieces necessary: images, hashtags, emojis. You can use emojis online by going to copyemoji.com and copying them into your content, in that Google Doc. Even if they don't show up properly on your computer, they'll show up properly on your phone and on social media when you go to post it. A Google Doc is great for putting in your content because it can be shared and edited, or comments can be made by anyone who needs to look over it before the post gets scheduled and goes live. When I worked at that retail store and did their social media, I organized the days by themes. So I had my 4 themed days each week, and then each month or so I would write out a bunch of ideas under each theme, and then I would lay them out in a calendar, in a Google Doc, to get them fully fleshed out and ready for posting, with the accompanying photos and hashtags and whatever else I needed. Then I would go back each month, see how well things were doing, add more content ideas, change up the themes as needed, or when they were getting boring or overused. Often, if you haven't switched themes in a while, they can get boring to you, which means they are probably boring to your audience too. Make sure to stay on top of the game and switch things up so they don't get boring to anyone. But how do you write a good post? You have to start out your caption with a scroll-stopping phrase or sentence. This is how you get people hooked in. But don't give away the whole thing of what you're saying in the first line. Make it kind of clickbaity. Like on Instagram, it'll show you one line before it has that see more button. So make sure you have a hook that that makes people click that see more button. Okay, then comes the bulk of your content. It can be however long you like, but keep it engaging and use those storytelling skills I discussed earlier. Then at the very end, always involve a call to action, a CTA. Give your audience specific instructions to call them to action. Ask them to comment with an emoji if they want to know more. Like say it's a historical tidbit that you posted. You want to see if people want to learn more, and you can ask them, comment with an emoji if you want to know more. Then you can share more on another post next week or talk about it on your Instagram or Facebook story. Ask them to click the link in their bio or click the link below in a CTA if you're trying to get them to go to, say, a news article or a community news article. You could do like this post if you agree, or maybe you did a trivia question about your area and you can have them comment or even direct message you their answer. And whoever does it first wins something, or maybe just bragging rights. There's no shortage of things you can do for this call to action, but it's always key to include one. You want people to do something, book your stay, or whatever it is. So just flat out ask them to. Otherwise, they won't always comment or they won't always click the link. All right, so now we want to know how to create a good post. And at this, sorry, give me 1 second. And at this point in the content strategy, you've actually gone ahead and created that post. So schedule it for the day and time that you want, and you're ready to go. Content strategy has been created. You can use later.com, the Facebook Creator Studio, Hootsuite, or any other third-party sites to schedule your content. So what's next? So it's nearing the end of the month and you want to figure out what did well versus what didn't. Firstly, you can do more market research and ask around. What did people like versus what didn't they like? You can do surveys or unofficial chatting with people in your community or your audience, much like I discussed earlier. Also check out your analytics. These vary per platform, but you can easily go in and see how many likes, how many comments, how many shares you got. Shares or retweets and comments, those are going to be the most important metrics than just like the vanity metric of likes. See what people responded well to. I am most familiar with analytics on Instagram, so make sure you have a business or a creator account there. You can check and see how many people visited your profile upon seeing a particular post, how many people like followed you as well upon seeing that post too. So take all those analytics and reflect off of them. What kind of things did people like more than others? What resonated more with your audience? What did they respond well to? Then do more of that. So if people really like Travel Tip Tuesdays, you can do 2 travel tip days. You don't have to do 4 different themes each week. You can do 2 of one and 2 of another. Adjust your theme days as needed in order to do that, and you may keep them the same for another month. Or if you have a new theme idea, you can absolutely add that in or replace it on some theme that only kind of worked. Maybe it didn't fall flat, but maybe it wasn't as good as some others, so try something new. So switch things up a bit monthly after seeing the statistics and then like reflecting on what worked. So to recap, today I talked about what type of content performs well on social media. I discussed how facts tell, but stories sell, how being funny and utilizing memes is a great way to relate to people, but also how those personal and real stories that really touch people's hearts do well too. I talked about what type of content you can and should share in the travel and tourism sector. From event promotion to sharing events as they happen, from promoting businesses to sharing reviews, there is no shortage of content to be discussed in this field. I talked about why you should have a content strategy. It helps you set goals, it helps you follow through with those goals, it helps you analyze what things worked and what things didn't. It helps you create aligned, high-quality content. How to actually create a content strategy in detail, from where and when best to sit down and do it, to how to organize your Google Doc for optimal productivity and for ease when your ideas are flowing. How to craft your content. I talked about the best way to format a post, how to hook them in, and how to write a proper call to action. And how to update your content strategy for the future. How to update it so your audience doesn't get bored, so you don't get bored, and so you're always trying new things and honing into what works and really reflecting off that. And so here's my contact page. You can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and of course through email. But I did want to mention the offer that I currently have available. So if you find that you are needing a content strategy, but you're not sure what ideas to actually take action on, if you find that you have maybe a bunch of ideas, but you're not sure what kind of content strategy to implement in order to see the most success, if that's you, this offer might be for you. So I'm offering 2 one-on-one strategy calls for the price of 1 for the first 3 people that reach out to me within the next 24 hours. If you're ready for the help of an expert, someone who knows what strategies work and what don't, as well as all the little tips and tricks that I didn't have time to mention during this hour, then this is for you. So the cost of the 2 strategy calls at the price of 1 comes to 297 Canadian dollars for those first 3 people that email me within the next 24 hours. After that, the cost will rise back up to the normal 2 call rate of 597 Canadian dollars. So I will pass it back to you, Susan.
Excellent. And at Canadian dollars, you'll be giving people money back. The exchange rate, I know that I paid, I think, 38 cents. I paid $1.38 Canadian for $1 American. So for any of our American colleagues, that's a fabulous deal. So for anybody that joined us late on the call, we do our questions one of 2 ways. You can type your question in the question area and I'll read those out to Anna. Alternatively, you can raise your hand. Click on the little hand symbol. I'll unmute you and speak to Anna to get your question answered. And I forgot to mention that Anna had provided a copy of her slides in the handout area. Go there and drag and drop or save my land. Have your own copy of PowerPoint presentation. And I'm not even going to talk about our next webinar because it's all the way to June 9th. So enjoy your holiday, and we hope to see you back in January. So let's get into our question. First question is, you referenced, what is this?
Can you say that again? It's breaking up a little bit.
I'm getting a myself. You referenced TikTok. What is this?
Okay, TikTok is I would say it's the most recent social media platform where you can go and create 15 to 60-second videos, just content-wise. It started out as called Musical.ly or Musically. If you may have heard of it under that name, but they transitioned over to being called TikTok. So basically you just share video content on that platform, and it's very popular with I think their Generation X, like the younger, like teenagers and such right now.
Okay, great. The next question is, can you get away without having a face to your brand?
So yes, you can, but I don't think that should be the takeaway here. Like if you're able to have a face, I would highly recommend it. But if you're not able to, don't stress because, like I spoke about in this presentation, there are plenty other amazing types of content that can be created.
Okay, great. Next question. How do we get our content to help us achieve our objective of increased sales?
So to increase sales, if that's the goal, I would recommend, so if you're posting 4 days a week, 2 of those posts should be promotional, should lead people with a call to action to whatever you are selling them. And the other post should be more aligned with stories and telling stories about your brand and such, or your community. The stories really get people more interested. and then they're more likely to buy from you during those sales posts. But it's important to not do the promotional content all the time, and mix it up with those different kind of story posts as well.
Okay, great. Next question. How do you share reviews on Instagram specifically without ruining the look of your layout?
So you can use like graphic design and format, a review quote on a nice background using an editor like Canva or Photoshop even, and make it go with the style of your layout. Or you can use the carousel feature on Instagram and put up the first image would, fit that format and style of your layout so it doesn't ruin it, and then have the second image either be that graphic design formatted quote review kind of thing, or you could put up a screenshot.
Okay, and I'm down to 2 questions. So if anybody's got anything further that they'd like to have covered during the program, please get it in now. The next one is, what are your thoughts on cross-posting?
Cross-posting, yes. Okay, I love that question. So in the beginning with a strategy, I recommend posting very similar things across different social media accounts. You can edit up the wording slightly, shorten things a little bit for Twitter because there's a limited character count. But for that first month, I would keep things similar across the board. And then you can study what does well nearing the end of that first month using like the analytics and see what people are liking on the different platforms and what people are really commenting on the different platforms. And then you can tailor your strategy as needed so they kind of branch out more based on what type of content is doing well on those platforms.
Okay, great. And the last question, unless someone gets one in real quick, is, do you always need a call to action?
Yes, you always do. So people don't always realize that this is something that they need to do on social media, because like people won't always click. Like they'll sometimes, just keep scrolling. Like so many people are out there and they're just scrolling and they're not even liking anything, honestly. So literally telling your audience to do something through through your caption, telling them to share the post, telling them to click a link or something. It keeps it super clear for people so they don't just scroll past.
And it's amazing how often people do what they're told to do. Okay, well, that brings us to the end of our program, the end of our year. Anna, thanks ever so much for being here with us and your absolutely fantastic presentation. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Susan.
Thanks, everybody, for attending, and we'll see you in the new year. Happy holidays, everybody. Bye-bye.